The Paul George sweepstakes headlined the 2017 offseason. Where would the four-time All-Star and defensive monster go after he declined his player option with Indiana during the season? With an expiring contract, the Pacers had to make a move and get something in return for one of the best two-way players in the league before he left for nothing. Three main teams emerged: Boston, Cleveland, and of course, the LA Lakers. The Rockets and Nuggets were rumored to be interested, but nothing concrete ever happened. Then, on June 30th, the Indiana Pacers traded Paul George to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. Early on, every quote-unquote expert knew that the Oklahoma City Thunder just stole an all-star caliber player in exchange for two role players, and that Indiana had given up their franchise player for half his value. But at this point in the season, with Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis showing great improvement on the Pacers, and the Thunder showing some growing pains early on in the season, who really won the Paul George trade? Well, let's break this trade down and see who really won the trade of Paul George and Victor Oladipo. First, let's look at this trade from the OKC perspective. In their final seasons with the Thunder, Sabonis averaged just 6 points and 4 rebounds in 20 minutes per game. Bear in mind, though, that he was a rookie, playing for one of the most competitive players in the league in Russell Westbrook. Sabonis honestly looked like a mediocre player for being the 11th pick in the 2016 draft by Orlando. Oladipo, on the other hand, had just been dealt from the Orlando Magic for a waning Serge Ibaka from Oklahoma City. His scoring did dip a couple points, and switching from being the main ball handler to being the second fiddle to Westbrook did drop his assist numbers, but his shooting percentages did improve quite well in his only season with OKC. Oladipo did provide great scoring from a lesser-known two-guard, putting up 16 points on 44% shooting and 36% from beyond the arc. But what OKC got in return was a steal at the moment this trade was executed. They landed a perennial all-star in Paul George, who had just come off a career year with 24, 7, and 2 steals for Indiana, leading the Pacers to nearly knock out the top 3 seeded Toronto Raptors team. George was a bona fide star in Indiana, and so far in OKC, he is not disappointed. He's averaging 21 points per game, 5 rebounds and 3 assists on 44% from the field and 38% from beyond the arc. And even with the stats, the Thunder have experienced some turbulence in adapting George and Carmelo into their offense dominated by Russell Westbrook. You would think that a team with a former MVP, that triple-double machine in Westbrook, along with a dominant ISO scorer like Carmelo Anthony and a bona fide two-way star in Paul George, would be contending in the Western Conference. However, that has not been the case. Whether the blame is on a specific player, or if you point the finger at Billy Donovan, the Thunder are currently 44-33 with only 5 games left in the regular season. They're currently only a half game back from being the 8th seed and 2.5 games back from being out of the playoffs entirely. And the chemistry between the three has been in question before. It's been seen that they're trying to take shots from the other, but trying not to step on any toes. But it seems that they've ironed those problems out in time for the playoffs. And no matter where they end up in the playoff race, the OKC Thunder with Paul George will be a tough out for any team that they face in the first round. Now let's view this from the Indiana perspective. Indiana knew that Paul George was going to opt out of his deal with the Pacers to test the free agent market, and most likely at the time, join his hometown Lakers. The Pacers knew that if they would receive any compensation for George leaving, they had to trade him before he left for nothing. The rumored Boston trade that sent multiple picks and players to Indiana seemed like the best option at the time, but after it fell through, the Pacers were left dealing Paul George to Oklahoma City in exchange for their hometown pride in Victor Oladipo, who went to Indiana University for his college basketball career. At the beginning of this season, the Pacers were projected to be a team looking to rebuild. They had just dealt away their young star in Paul George, but had young talent to develop in Miles Turner, Oladipo, and Sabonis. But what ended up happening is exactly the opposite. Victor Oladipo has had a breakout year, averaging 24 points per game, 5 rebounds and 4 assists on 48% from the field and 37% from 3. He's clearly in the running for most improved player, jumping his scoring average by 7 points, doubling his assists, doubling his steals, now at 2.5 every game. And while the main focus of the Pacers has been Oladipo, who, bear in mind, is only 25 years old and on an extremely favorable contract for a star at $21 million for the next 4 years, don't look the underrated player in this trade, Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis looked like a mediocre player in OKC, but in now a prominent role in Indiana, has shown flashes of being a quality starter in this league for years to come, averaging 12 and 8 on 52% from the field and 37% from beyond the arc. He's also chipping in 2 assists as well and has shown flashes on the defensive end. But where the real comparison comes into play is in the results. Now keep in mind that this is the Eastern Conference, so the wins may be a bit inflated, but the standings speak for themselves. The Pacers are 45-31, currently the 5th seed, but are only a single game back of overtaking the Cavs as the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. And with the Pacers currently rocking a 4-game win streak, they look potent to make that playoff push. So in the end, who won the Paul George trade? Well, in my opinion, the Indiana Pacers won. First off, it's completely uncertain that Paul George will even stay in Oklahoma City. Depending on how far they go in the playoffs, George has already shown his intent of signing with the Lakers this offseason in the free agent market. The Pacers, on the other hand, have seemed to found the replacement for Paul George as the franchise player in Indiana. Oladipo's contract locks him in as the player of the future in Indiana, and along with Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, the Pacers' future is full of playoff runs. Guys, thank you for watching. Again, this is simply my opinion, so I'd love to hear what you guys think and who won this Paul George trade. Be sure to subscribe for more NBA videos, hit that like button if you liked the video, and I'll see you next time.